Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and welcome back to the Great Movie Rad Podcast. I'm your host, Gaston, with my co-host,
Jerryofdom.
and today we have a special treat for you all, our 2022 Retrospective / Awards show. We'll be reanalyzing briefly every movie we talked about, any difference of opinions that time has given, or rewatches for some of these films, as well as giving our own awards show. Now, this is not limited to movies that came out this year, this is every movie we covered, so there's some big ones on here. Let's get into it with Eternals.
The
Have
worst
you
movie
seen it?
ever.
Have you seen it since the first time?
No.
So I watched part of it again with my parents not too long after it went on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So a while ago now. I don't really have a different opinion. I stand by the rating I gave it. I think the one thing I'll double down on is it's not as bad as everyone said it was, and I think everyone's kind of realized that with the other MCU projects from Phase 4, that it's not as bad as everyone said it was. It's not great. I stand by the 68 that I gave it. It's not bad.
I can't remember what I give it, but as we both said, it was a good movie, but it wasn't
There was stuff to like in it for sure.
yeah, it was a movie you could watch. It's not
It wasn't a dumpster fire. It wasn't hard to watch. It's just not the standard that we're used to from
exactly.
the MCU.
It was the opening of the death of the MCU, which will now be fixed.
We hope.
We hope.
We have to wait and see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Black Panther was a good hope, even though it was in the death of the MCU.
Well, Phase 4 is always going to have a black mark, even though, one of the best MCU films, No Way Home, that's a Phase 4 movie.
That is.
Not everything was terrible. It's mostly the shows that really brought it down.
But even then, Loki was pretty good.
Oh, yeah, there were shows I liked. I loved Moon Knight, Hawkeye, and Loki specifically.
Yeah.
But there was just too much.
Yeah.
Oversaturation of the product. So now let's talk about Shang-Chi, which I don't think I've seen since we did the review.
I haven't.
But I stand by everything I said about it. The kaiju fight was unnecessary. Wenwu carries the movie, but the main performances are all strong as well. Like Simu Liu, Awkwafina,
Yeah.
I like it a lot. I put that on the same level as a lot of Phase 2 projects. Like Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, First Guardians, all around there.
Not Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier's a special movie. That's one of the MCU's best.
Yeah. I personally agree with most of the movie. Be great, and that kaiju fight put Thor the Dark World quality for me. You know, I actually don't mind Thor the Dark World.
I don't
but
either.
From everyone's standards of Thor the Dark World is kind of how my views of the last bit.
The last bit isn't great. It should have ended with one.
It should have been those
Wenwu.
two fights.
That should have been the end. Even have him die if you want, but having a long drawn out kaiju fight afterwards just undercut Wenwu, who was legitimately one of the greatest MCU antagonists we've had.
Yeah.
So while I agree the kaiju fight was dumb, I don't let it taint. It definitely lowers my score, but it doesn't affect my overall view of the movie.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful film.
For me, it's a little messy there.
Mm.
You remember how much I hated it.
Yeah. So now we got our first award of the day, Best Score. The movies I considered for Best Score were Jurassic Park 1, Back to the Future Part 1, Dune, and Sword Art Online Progressive Art of a Starless Night. Very few things captured the magic of that opening when you first see Kirito and his theme blares as he's rushing the floor 10 boss. That was beautiful. But I'll go first. My winner for Best Score is Jurassic Park. Holy smokes, John Williams. I love that score.
You know, I had a few in mind, and Jurassic Park was also my choice. That was the one.
It's so good.
No one can forget the.
It's beautiful. So our next movie was Spider-Man 2, which I said was the greatest Spider-Man movie of all time. So yes, my opinion has changed slightly. It is the second greatest Spider-Man movie of all time. I agree with everything else I said. It's just a movie came out that was better.
No Way Home was just.
Yup.
That was the dream.
It took everything I loved about 2 and then everything I loved about the MCU's version, and just put it all together, and it was perfect.
Have you watched No Way Home since then?
No, and I'm sad that I haven't. I really want to, but I get my DVDs through Disney Movie Club. No Way Home wasn't distributed there, and it's not on Disney Plus, and I just haven't gotten out to buy it.
You know how I feel after looking up like a few things and all that is like I really love the movie and I watched it the re-release with those extra scenes.
The extra 8 minutes or whatever.
Those extra 8 minutes were pretty entertaining. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm not. The plot's a little messy the second time you watch it. It shows up a little bit. That hype's really like it's faded away. You're watching it because you want to watch Spider-Man, and the plot holes kind of stick out a bit. But I still love that movie as my favorite Spider-Man movie. But the plot is a little weaker than Spider-Man 2 for me.
Fair. I haven't had the rewatch of it, nor have I rewatched Spider-Man 2, but I pretty much agree with everything I've said about those films.
Yeah.
Alfred Molina's Doc Ock is amazing. Tom Holland's my favorite Spider-Man, so No Way Home you get that as well. Yeah. Like, it's great.
I think the greatest thing about Spider-Man 2 was just the fact that it made the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man more relatable when he was trying to fix his life.
Yeah.
And it really hits hard with a lot of people because a lot of people get so many different things and then they take certain things to focus on more and forget other things, and it really helps them through life. So it's more of that like in the feels, without being a sad movie.
Yeah. Well, I think that covers both our Spider-Men in a row there, so we can go to our next award.
One more thing to add about No Way Home, because we're going to touch on that for a second. Andrew Garfield's performance
is better than his performance in Amazing Spider-Man.
Everyone talks about how his performance is just, it was so good, but the problem was the writing was so bad. And I feel like this movie really helped him shine. And it really...
He was too cool to be Parker.
Yeah.
Parker's not supposed to be a cool dude. But that's why this movie didn't have to worry about that. Yeah. So it was just a really good turn from Andrew Garfield. There's rumored to be a Marvel Legends 3-pack of the 3 Spider-Men coming out in the new year. So that I would probably... Like, I haven't really collected Marvel Legends in a while, but I would probably... It's pretty neat. So our next award is Best Writing. And I got mine narrowed down to 3. Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, and Dune. Do you want to go first for your best writing?
For my best writing, it was Back to the Future.
Which is mine as well, because as we talked about, it avoided all the common plot holes of time travel.
Exactly.
It is so well written. Like, it may not have the most iconic dialogue, but it had the hardest task to write. Other than, like, Black Panther had a difficult time, too, having to change the character, but Back to the Future's writing is perfect. Like... It had a thankless job, and it did it so well. We're thankful for it.
That one, they settled with it, and it was good with what they did, and it's everyone knows Back to the Future.
Yeah. So far, we're the same awards so far. I doubt that'll continue, but it's interesting to see we're at that point. So now let's talk about Sword Art Online Progressive Aria of a Starless Night. And I haven't gotten to see it since, which sucks, but it's coming to DVD in the new year, and the sequel's coming in February, which is exciting. But as I've had time to think about it, it really did a good job of improving what came before.
Yeah.
But it's still not, having read the book, it's still not a perfect adaptation. But I agree with everything I said. I have the same opinion. It was well done. New character was good. Rob Daigle of his hero moment. Buff Ilfang was sick. It's the same opinions I have. It didn't change much.
For me, not being so much of a Sword Art fan and looking at more just an anime fan in general, it is a good movie. It's got a good plot and everything, and it's not got some of the things that Sword Art likes to add into its plots. So that was nice. And it was overall for Sword Art, that was really good. Coming from that stance of Sword Art's good, but there's, to me, better things to watch. It was something that I would watch again, even though it is Sword Art. Though I should probably give Sword Art another chance at some point.
Alicization is really good.
That's what I've heard from, everyone.
Yeah, everyone's opinion on Sword Art changed when War of Underworld dropped. And now it's just wait a minute, is this actually good? Then War of Underworld happened, everyone's kind of oh.
Because Season 2 was a big...
See, I really liked GGO. I loved Death Gun. It went on a little too long. About 2 episodes too long.
And then I found the second arc after it
Yuki?
I didn't care enough.
Yeah, if you're invested, it's the best thing ever. If you're not, it's like, okay, that was kind of sad, but let's move on. Which was
It
kind
felt
of the
like
boat I
too
was in.
much.
But then watching it with Molly Mock, watching his reaction, he got super invested in Yuki. That improved my view of the arc, is watching him break down with this. So now let's talk about Denis Villeneuve's Dune, which is probably the most surprising film we reviewed, because the original film is so terrible, and this movie is just legitimately good.
Now I'm trying to remember. This movie came out in
2021.
In my opinion, with how 2021 went with movies, um, for itself, I think it is the best movie in 2021. Even though Spider-Man No Way Home came out the same year. You know, Tenet came out. Tenet, in my opinion, is really good. But it does...
Tenet's good, but it's nowhere near the other
It's
two.
not Dune. And I felt like, because Marvel and Spider-Man have such backing on it, that I feel like Dune is just overall...
its achievement is more impressive.
I hate that it came out during the pandemic time, because it really plummeted the budget marketing that it got.
I'm so glad it made enough to get part 2.
I know, because it was a really good movie.
And some of the casting we've gotten for part 2, Christopher Walken, Florence Pugh, like, we've got another great cast coming at us.
I feel like Dune 2, like, coming out next year, is going to be one of those high box office movies.
I hope so.
Because Dune 1 just...
The problem it has is, because of part 1 being pandemic, how many people are invested in the sequel?
I'm super invested.
Oh, me too. Everyone who's seen the movie is, but that's the problem that it has.
I think with movies being so much more people going to see them now, because even now, Avatar 2 just hit 1 billion worldwide.
Or it's suspected to. The numbers aren't in yet, but it's on pace to have passed it now. Yeah.
So, I mean, Avatar, which has mixed views by a lot of people.
Everyone agrees it's visually impressive, and everyone agrees the story's lacking.
Exactly. So for a movie like that, and then a movie like Dune where everyone agrees it's amazing.
Yeah. From what I understand, there's a better plot in the sequel, right? For Avatar?
I'd rather watch the second one than the first one.
Fair enough. But yeah, Dune was great. I agree with everything I said. It's one of the highest rated movies we've done. It is so good.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Which brings us to our next award, which is for Best Visual Effects. And the ones I had narrowed down to was Dune, because it's incredible. Jurassic Park, because somehow it holds up.
Yeah.
And Inception for really awesome effects. But I gave it to Dune, which was just jaw-dropping.
So I also gave Best Cinematography to Dune.
Nice. This one isn't cinematography, though. This is the effects.
Shoot! Best Effects is also Dune.
There you go.
So it was a spoiler, but
don't worry about it.
So we know what I gave Best Cinematography, but Dune also gets Best Effects in my book.
If there wasn't a bad effect I could think of.
I think for me,
beautiful.
because it's not like this studio that's huge, popular, and all that. That was
no, it was mostly funded by Villeneuve himself.
Exactly,
which is wild.
So I was like, this movie is done, and it's not a like for movies now. The budget was like
it was a smaller budget.
Yeah, and it just looked amazing.
Despite all of that, it looks so good.
Like watching the fight when they come to invade the city and they're all running across and everything is you're like, oh,
beautiful.
It's amazing looking.
So now let's talk about Free Guy, which is one of the funner movies we reviewed. It still holds up. Like everything I said about it being surprisingly fun and a lot deeper than I expected. It's the same opinion. Like it's good. I like it a lot.
It's a fun movie you can put on and you'll enjoy it. Even if you walked away and you came back, you're still gonna enjoy it.
It's fun.
You know?
Like it doesn't hold up as well as some of the movies we reviewed, but it's a heck of a lot of fun to watch.
Like for a movie compared to all the movies that we reviewed, there's a lot of power.
Yeah, this year year we've reviewed two of the movies that I consider some of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
So it's just like the bar was so high.
Yeah.
But Free Guy stands as just fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
It's a good movie.
It is.
Into the Spider-Verse. We talked about that one back in February.
What?
Yeah, a while ago now.
I think we both agree that it's like a good movie.
Overrated, in my opinion.
And I'm gonna agree with that too. I'm excited for the sequel. but there are people that are like, holy crap.
See, I don't need to see the sequel in theaters, just like I never saw Into the Spider-Verse in theaters. But that being said, I am going to see the sequel.
I'm seeing the sequel specifically because Spider-Man 2099 is my favorite
And
Spider-Man.
evidently the villain of the story, which is interesting. It's going to be a greater good story, I get the feeling.
Yeah.
And Oscar Isaac's incredible. That might be enough to make me go see
That,
it,
that,
honestly.
that is
Oscar
the
Isaac
biggest
is
reason
great.
I'm excited for this movie. It's because Spider-Man 2099.
Fair enough. But my opinion is the same. It's overrated. It's good.
For
It's
an
still in the
animation
80s,
and a lot of things
but
they did amazing
visually
work.
it's cool. Cool
Like,
as heck.
and also just listening to like back, like the behind the scenes and all that, and how they did certain animations
Like
for
the
characters,
pointillism too.
and
to
how
make a
they
comic book.
made like Miles like less frames.
Slightly out of step
So-
until he stepped into the role.
Exactly.
Like,
And
it's
I'm
cool.
That's
It's
you know,
very cool. I love the behind the scenes of
Oh,
how
yeah.
movies are made. Like, that's why we do this.
yeah.
Yeah. Like,
But like for me, it's not like this. Holy crap! This movie is my favorite thing ever. It's a good movie though that I enjoy watching.
so now we get to our next award, which is Best Cinematography, which for you is Dune. For me, I had it narrowed down to Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, Dune, and Spider-Man 2, which had a lot of incredible shots. But I gave it to Jurassic Park for just the sheer iconic state of almost every shot in the film. Back when dinosaurs were allowed to be cool and scary at the same
Yeah.
time. That's why I picked it. Now, why did you pick Dune?
I picked Dune because of everything. Like a lot of movies, and it had gotten to that point where it's like the movie magic was gone for me. You know,
Mhm.
and
We
that
talk
movie,
about the art of making movies.
that movie felt the art of making a movie in it. You know,
I agree with that.
like scenes, the way scenes were pointed out and how it was directed. Like when you're looking at when they're coming off their ships onto the new planet, just the cinematography, the shots are great. Looking at the big worm monster, everything. It's like for a movie in this time of age, this is like one of those movies where I'm like the cinematography. Like
I agree with that.
Like,
It's
even
probably
though-
the best cinematography from a modern film we looked at.
yeah, like even looking at Tenet, it was again one of those movies where it wasn't this built-on universe or this sequel to another movie that we're always getting.
Yeah.
You know, it was
was an
its
original-
own thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I have a lot of respect for Tenet, even though the plot's a little.
It doesn't hold up to scrutiny as well as Inception did.
Both of these movies to me are like movie magic movies.
Fair enough. So our next one is Encanto, which took the world by storm at the end of 2021, early 2022.
This one really just.
We Don't Talk About Bruno is the most successful Disney song ever. And so the interesting thing happened. My nieces have been watching it on repeat for about a month now. And this is the highest praise I can give the movie. It hasn't gotten tiresome.
Really?
It really hasn't. Its music, its message, and its
Because I
performances.
know Sing, you guys will want to like just.
I
punch the
don't have a
screen.
problem with Sing, to be honest, but I understand why it doesn't. It's nowhere near the level of Encanto. Encanto happens to be just one of those special movies that, despite having seen it probably close to 50 times now, I'm not sick of it.
You know,
Which is huge praise for any movie to have that much watch time and not be annoyed.
yeah.
I respect Encanto more now than I did then, and I gave it a glowing review then.
I can't remember exactly what I gave it, but I do think that it is a really good movie.
Its
Like-
message is nice.
Yeah.
And that's something that's lacking a lot nowadays, is a nice message.
Yeah. I like a lot of things like it's not the same old Disney that we look at, but here's
No,
the
it's
thing.
not the Renaissance.
You know, we look at the Renaissance, and people those times might have been like, well, the older movies are better.
Mm,
So I think that's the spot I'm in, where I'm like, the older movies are better.
mm.
But sometime in the future, there's going to be another person like us that
He's
are
gonna
like,
look at this,
this,
time,
you
Moana,
know,
and
Moana,
Encanto, and be
Encanto.
like, this is the best
Yeah.
Disney's ever been. Which is weird to think about.
That-
But
that's
you're
how
absolutely right. But
that's
it's
how
weird
I
to
feel
think
about Encanto. Because I'm like, it is a good movie, but
Oh,
you
I
know,
would.
I'd rather go watch Hunchback or Lion
Oh,
King.
absolutely. I would rather watch like 90% of the Renaissance over Encanto. But Encanto, I put on the same level as a couple of those Renaissance films like Hercules.
Yeah.
Which is high praise for any Disney movie.
Yeah.
Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. I gotta be honest. I gave this movie a glowing review, and as I was getting ready for this, I looked back at what I said. I don't think I praised it enough on just how good it actually is. I adore this film
Oh,
more than I thought I would. And I think that every time I see it, that I'm like, man, that was so much better than I thought it was. And its stagnant place in my mind is the upper levels of Star Wars films. And yet every time I see it, I'm like, dang, that was so much better than I thought it was. Is it my favorite Star Wars film? I really don't know. It's close between it and Return of the Jedi.
here's how I put Rogue One. Like, my favorite Star Wars movie is Revenge of the Sith, just because it was like my childhood Star Wars movie that I didn't get to keep watching. I saw it on TV, and then I never got to watch it for like 7 years again. Then I finally got to watch it, and to me, it's just like the nostalgia for me.
That's fair.
But in all
Revenge of the
honesty,
Sith, I will defend the prequels, but
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith is the easiest one to defend.
oh yeah,
It's got the most merit on its own.
like, but Rogue One, I think, just looking at it, story based and everything, in my opinion, we look at Return of the Jedi, amazing, probably one of the best Star Wars movies. But I will say Rogue One, with being at the stage that Star Wars was at when it came out, it is the best Star Wars movie to come.
It's so good. And like what it does so well is make us care about characters we've never seen before
Exactly.
and at the time would never see again. Like of course Andor happened now. But at the time, that wasn't on the table.
No.
That wasn't a thing that could happen.
It was at a weird stage where no one knew where Star Wars was going, because Force Awakens was the only movie that had come out at that point.
And just to refresh our memory, Force Awakens was a juggernaut. Like everyone loved it when it came out. It's just become popular to hate it, which is why I find it easy to defend Force Awakens, because I do like it a lot.
It's
But
good.
Rogue One is something else. It's a special movie.
Now, I know there's certain people I've talked to, they're like, it's not the same,
It's not
I'm like-
Star Wars, but that's why it's called Rogue One, a
Yeah.
Star Wars story.
It made it enjoyable for those different characters that aren't just,
Yeah.
the main ones that are wielding lightsabers.
Exactly. Like people, when they say Star Wars, they think Jedi, Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Or they'll
Yoda.
think Darth Vader or something.
Sith lightsaber users, Jedi, like, and that's fine. But they knew that too, which is why it's called Rogue One, a Star Wars story,
Yeah.
not Star Wars Episode blank. Like they could have went Star Wars Episode 3.5.
That's
they
kind of a
wanted to.
stupid name.
Oh, absolutely. But if they wanted to, they could have made it episodic. But they know that too.
I think they dealt with it well.
Rogue One's great.
I know when I watched it again.
Yeah, me too. Which brings us to best original song. I put in quite a few into my consideration. I narrowed it down to Surface Pressure from Encanto. I limited it to one per film.
Yeah.
Even though we don't talk about Bruno, and Dos Ardiguitas are great songs as well. I went Surface Pressure, You're Welcome from Moana, Power of Love from Back to the Future, That's How You Know from Enchanted, and Batter from Disenchanted has been stuck in my head since we watched it.
Really?
Yeah. It was the best part of the movie, I think.
I kind of forgot about that song.
Fair enough.
That movie did not stick in my head too well. Kind of just after the first 10 minutes, I was like,
My winner was Surface Pressure, for all the reasons I said before.
My winner is Power of Love.
Iconic.
Ever, like, watching it as a kid, and now that song, like, every time I hear it, I'm like, yeah, that's a jam.
It's iconic. So we're going to take a brief break from doing awards instead of doing 2 movies an award to get all the Jurassic period out in one go. We're going to talk about it pretty loosely and pretty quickly. Jurassic Park is still one of the greatest films ever made. My difference of opinion comes with The Lost World. I was too hard on it.
Yeah.
Having watched 3 and Fallen Kingdom shortly afterwards, I was far too harsh on The Lost World. I would probably bump it up into the 70s.
It's got good dinosaurs.
It's still scary dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And Roland Tembo is one of our greatest Jurassic Park characters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of problems with San Diego scene, and I stand by every problem I said. Kelly, Sarah Harding, Nick Van Owen. But holy cow, Jurassic Park 3 and Fallen Kingdom are so much worse. Now, I'm not going to put 3 or Fallen Kingdom any lower than I did. I think I beat the snot out of them fairly
I
enough.
don't know. Fallen Kingdom still deserves to have the snot beat out of it.
Well, I took it down to 32, which is the lowest by a mile. Because there's still visually, it's cool, and there's still some good performances. So it's not like a 0, but it's certainly not above a 32.
The Lost World is like a good Jurassic Park movie.
Yeah, and that's something that I didn't expect, which is why we're doing this retrospective. This is the movie that inspired me to do it. Is like, my opinion is almost entirely different. It's in the 70s now instead of the 60s for me. Like, I was too hard on it.
Yeah.
Just straight up.
But again, Jurassic Park is still.
Oh, it's incredible.
And Jurassic Park 3, I just want to touch on it.
You like 3.
I really like 3. But after doing that podcast and actually sitting on the thoughts of 3, it's not that good.
No, I stand by my like 50-something.
I still love the Spinosaurus and the dinosaur, like the dinosaur fight scene. I was like, that's our first dinosaur fight scene.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
first big one versus big one at least. There was like Rex and Raptor in the first one.
Which
big and big, sure.
I was like, that's cool. But thinking about why is the Spinosaurus just standing there looking at them?
That movie's
and
the
like
worst for it.
the talking raptors and it ended way too early.
Yeah, there should be like another 30 minutes of the army fighting dinosaurs at least, which would have probably saved the movie.
I think that you bringing that point up and like really clicking in how how quick the movie is.
It just ends.
I was just like, okay, maybe the movie's not that good.
It just ends.
The childhood nostalgia kind of faded away from me.
I'm sorry to rob your childhood
nostalgia. No, it's completely fine. It's just kind of like, yeah. I'll still watch and be like, yeah, Spinosaurus, but if I have to turn my brain off if I'm gonna watch that movie.
I stand by the complaints I said. The Amanda Kirby, Billy Brennan, who I like at the start, makes the dumbest decision ever. Now, mind you, the pterodactyl sequence is amazing and deserves to be in a better film. And I will always say that. That pterodactyl sequence is wild. Jurassic World is still, in my opinion, the best sequel to Jurassic Park. It's good.
It's a good movie.
I like it a lot. Claire Dearing, Owen Grady. I like it a lot.
Claire Dearing.
Fallen Kingdom is trash. Worst movie we reviewed this year.
That movie just
can go with itself.
Yeah.
Dominion. Now I want to hear what you have to say because you saw it a second time. I haven't, and you said that it really lowered your rating.
So the first time watching is like, yo, dinosaurs again. Like I felt scary again.
We were on the same page with Dominion back when it came out.
And then watching it a second time was just. It really made me not enjoy it as much. A lot of things were really stupid. And they really just abandoned the whole idea of the dinosaurs being out in the world.
Yeah.
Which I know people don't like San Diego and all that. But I really wanted to see that, the dinosaurs in action.
Right.
Running around, like seeing the Quetzalcoatls or whatever flying around New York City. I was like, oh, that's sick. And then watching it again, seeing clips of the videos of like dinosaurs of just like memes I've watched and it's just edited over and they threw in a dinosaur and the plot kind of just stinks and everything's kind of stupid and the villain, what's his name? Dodson. He's not that interesting.
No, that's true.
Yeah, I really sat there and I'm like, this guy kind of stinks.
So I haven't seen it again. My opinion hasn't changed on it really, although I would say The Lost World is better.
Yes.
That is different opinion, but I have to watch it. I just haven't got around to it.
I put it Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, Lost World, Dominion 3, and then Fallen Kingdom.
Which is pretty much where I'm at.
We both.
Yeah.
I don't think like Jurassic Park 3 is actually I might swap Dominion 3 just because of the nostalgia for 3, but as an actual movie from like straight up Dominion's better. Even though Dominion is not that good.
So if you had to give it a number now, what would you give it? Because we were in the same page around the 80s.
I think Dominion. I'd give it in the 60s now.
Interesting.
I can't really remember too well how I felt about it after the second time, but it wasn't as good.
Interesting. I do intend to rewatch it. I just haven't had the time.
Yeah.
So now we get to the big awards, starting with Best Supporting Actor. And goodness, this was hard. This was the hardest one for me. I got it narrowed down to Alfred Molina in Spider-Man 2 and No Way Home, Tony Leung as Wen Wu, Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Arthur, Pete Postlethwaite as Roland Tembo, Winston Duke as M'Baku, Joe Keery's character from Free Guy, who is Walter Keys McKee. I did remember his name, it just took a second. And of course, Oscar Isaac as Leto Atreides. No, actually, he's not on the list there, but I should also mention Donnie Yen as Chirrut Imwe.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Supporting actor was the hardest for me,
Yeah.
but I have to give it to Alfred Molina in Spider-Man 2 and No Way Home because he got to do it twice in the same things we reviewed, and it was incredible both times. My favorite moment in Spider-Man history is when he and Maguire reunite at the end of No Way Home.
And you just feel...
It moves me. It physically... Well, emotionally, but you get what I mean. It feels real. I just get up and walk away. No, it moves me.
You start levitating when you see it.
Exactly. Oh.
So
that's my winner, Alfred Molina as Doc Ock.
So for me, we went through a lot of these movies, and I tried to focus on like more recent films because like we looked at a lot of the golden age
We looked at
films.
some amazing movies.
So I went in with a bit of a bias against the golden age, even though they have been in my list, because I was like, some of the newer deserve some recognition for what they did. And so looking at Joseph Gordon-Levitt's performance
as Arthur,
I was like, that's a really good performance that is stuck in my head. Like when I think of Inception, I think of like
Arthur.
I think of Arthur and Leonardo DiCaprio's character.
I think of Arthur in the hallway fight.
Yeah,
that's synonymous with Inception.
That is the biggest, just like wow. And he adds this interest of mystery to the movie,
and they never explain him, which is absolutely the right choice.
And
never explain Arthur.
And that was during like because Joseph Gordon-Levitt he's in a very few amount of like serious movies.
Yeah, he's like romance usually.
He's in a lot of like comedy stuff that's like crazy. But anyways, he does really well. And I think, you know, after watching it, I want to watch like The Dark Knight Rises again with his performance. So I think we should do like the Dark Knight trilogy sometime.
You do like Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
So our next movie we looked at was Lightyear, which I haven't rewatched. And my opinion's about the same. It's a movie. I gave it somewhere in the 70s, low 70s, and I think that's fair.
Yeah.
It's never justified its existence, but ignoring that part, it wasn't bad. It just never justified its existence, in my opinion.
It's
one of our more forgettable ones.
That movie kind of sits with me, and it's just like, this thing shouldn't exist.
It definitely should.
I just... The only good thing that came out of it was the casting. Socks is about the best thing that came out of the movie.
And then we did Thor: Love and Thunder.
So this has changed a lot.
Okay.
For me.
Let's see what you got.
So after, you know, because we both walked into the podcast like this was a good movie and all that. And now looking back and like watching some stuff on it and all that, I'm really like, that was not as good of a movie as I had hoped. I think Gore's performance overall was good, though the plot screwed him over with him just capturing a bunch of kids and then putting them on a moon. And it was just kind of like, a lot of things don't make sense of why that happened. I think the ending, spoiler warnings, with Jane and Thor and Gore, that's a powerful, good scene right there. Yeah. But I think a lot of things were just like, I was riding on the hype of this is Thor, this is how it should be and all that, and then looking at how they've treated Thor now and everything, and it's just kind of like, Gore's a really, really important, like, good character in the comics, and it kind of threw him away in this, I found.
Yeah.
That threat never felt strong with him, and his performance was like really, really good when he was getting his scenes.
Yeah.
So I feel they definitely screwed up on that movie.
My opinion is pretty much the same as yours. But my problem doesn't go to the writing. I think the problem is Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
It seems like lightning, pardon the Thor joke, but it seems like lightning only strikes once.
Yeah.
Ragnarok was so good, and Love and Thunder is not the worst Thor film,
No.
I don't think. But Jane Foster was incredible.
Oh yeah.
I will stand by her all the way, but she deserved a better movie. Her personal arc was perfect. The movie itself has a lot of problems. And what was Russell Crowe doing?
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. What was he doing?
I think they really screwed up with, because Taika Waititi did a great job with Ragnarok.
And then at that point, he got too much freedom. Because
when everything happened with Thor and everything, they still focused on that, and there was the emotion. And in this movie, they kind of just took everything that's happened with Thor and kind of like, well, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to keep being sad.
I will say the opening battle was pretty cool though, with the Guardians. I did like that.
But I will say this movie did kind of...
Yeah, it wasn't great. The moon scene is still amazing though.
That's a great
monochromatic
scene.
Moon.
But the actual reason of them being there and everything, I'm like, this is kind of...
Oh, true. Yeah. But it more like that, less like what we got. A lot of humor didn't land.
And for like Gore being the God Butcher, we don't see him.
Yeah, he kills like what, one guy?
We see him kill one on screen.
We see him kill on screen. We see the bodies of a lot of others, but that doesn't have the same impact.
I feel like what would have been good, like powerful thing, is if he got to Olympus.
Yeah, massacred
and
people.
Just started going on a spree, and they just barely escaped.
Mm-hmm.
That would have put in the impact.
True.
Of this guy is something.
True. Fun fact: do you know what one of the gods that was there was?
There's a lot.
So there's two major Marvel gods that were there. Okay. So Bast, which is Black Panther's god.
I heard about that.
Sitarak, Juggernaut, like the person who gives Juggernaut the power, the Ruby of Sitarak.
Oh, dang.
He just looks like Juggernaut. I saw the concept art, like, that's sick. It's really cool. It's like a 18-foot tall Juggernaut just chilling there. It's amazing. Which brings us to Best Supporting Actress. And for me, this was super easy. For me, this wasn't even a question. I had to narrow it down to Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda, Laura Dern as Ellie Sattler, and Jodie Comer as Molotov Girl from Free Guy. But to me, it was no question. Angela Bassett, Queen Ramonda, is one of the best performances of the year. It's incredible.
You know what? Probably should have done that. I didn't pick her. But she did amazing in Black Panther.
It was incredible.
I ended up picking Haley Steinfeld from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, that's voice actress. So supporting actress.
I thought that was a...
Pick one.
We'll make it the same one then.
Angela Bassett. She acted the crap off of her. Like, it was incredible.
I thought animated would work for supporting.
Yeah, voice actress is the next one.
Yeah, I picked someone different.
Fair enough. Well, you get to compare what you picked with what you picked.
I picked her as like Gwen Stacy's character as a supporting.
Fair. It's definitely a supporting role. That's true.
I thought was really good.
She is.
But
yeah, this is live action performance.
Yeah, we'll put it as that.
Which brings us to Moana, which is the best Disney film before Encanto. I like Moana a lot. I still put it and Encanto on the same level, except I don't know if Moana would hold up to 50 viewings in a month, like Encanto managed to. I really don't know.
I still think it's a really good, enjoyable movie, but I don't think it could hold up to being watched 50 times.
Very few movies can. And you don't know what movie can until it happens to you. When you have nieces or young kids, that's when you learn what movies hold up.
So for a long time...
Like Trolls does not hold up to one viewing, let alone 500.
My parents would be like, yeah, let's watch Trolls. And I'm like, I'd rather die. They'll be like, yeah, let's go watch Trolls. It'll be on TV. Hey, we're watching Trolls. Leave me alone. I don't want to watch this.
We should review Trolls so we can just rip into it.
I literally would rather die than watch that movie all the way through.
But then we could rip into another movie like Fallen Kingdom.
Okay, but I'd then have to watch the movie. That's the problem. I don't want to. We'd be watching that review and I'd be like, I hate this movie, and I didn't even watch it. But Moana, I think, is a really good Disney movie. It's one of those, like,
it's so good.
It's gonna stand
be a
out.
classic.
That's a classic, yeah.
So is Encanto, for that matter. It is just built different than other animated films.
For me, I would rather watch Moana than Encanto.
Yep, that's the same opinion you had before.
Yeah, that's still how I feel.
That's fair. And then Inception. Really good. I don't think my opinion changed on it. It's just, it really holds, 92. I still feel that way.
It's a good movie.
It's well done.
Because
well done.
even though it people may be like, oh, there's these plot holes, and I'm like,
There are, sure.
that's fine, but there's so much mystery that those plot holes
Mhm.
in the end don't really matter
The,
because it's meant to be this.
the worst part is Mal, still, in my opinion. She just
Gee.
didn't need to happen that way. Or a better performance, at least. But...
I understand the reason, like her reason in the movie, but
Oh,
at the
sure,
same time,
yeah.
I'm also like,
it's important for Cobb.
it feels annoying.
Yes.
I think they needed to just put it differently of her role in the movie. Just keep it the same reason she's there, but make her have just something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Which brings us to Best Voice Actress. I got mine narrowed down to Shirami Lay as Asuna, Jessica Darrow as Louisa, Stephanie Beatriz as Mirabelle, and Ali Cravalho as Moana. I have a feeling I know who you picked. I picked Shirami Lay as Asuna.
So who do you think I picked?
Someone from Silent Voice.
Yes. And because I watched the Japanese dub,
Yeah, you have Japanese.
the
name.
Japanese voice actor for Shoko, Saori Hayami.
Saori.
That's her name. That's her name. You look.
I don't doubt you.
Like,
I just kind of like,
she's a super popular voice actress in anime, and she does amazing every time. And her portrayal in it was just the emotions. I feel like a bit of a weeb.
You are, yes.
The watching like
It's okay,
anime.
this is a safe space.
It's not. Not for me. I'm killing myself over it. But just like watching an anime movie in Japanese just feels the emotion of the voice actors feel more into it than watching it in English. I feel like some of the emotion gets lost in translation.
Fair. Which brings us to Tenet, our next Christopher Nolan film that we reviewed.
Where'd you leave this movie at? What was your...
I think I was high 70s?
Yeah,
74. Which I still stand by. I like a lot of what it did, but this one does not hold up to scrutiny like Inception does.
I think the biggest problem with this movie was there's just a lot of confusing things for
They
no
choose
reason.
not to explain it.
That
Like,
was...
They
And they literally say...
Yeah, don't try to understand it.
I think if it
That
wasn't for
offended
them...
me.
I think that's one thing I didn't think about too hard, but now that you brought it up, I'm like...
That,
They
as a
could have
viewer-
presented it in a way...
Exactly. As a viewer, I felt offended by don't try to understand it. It's like, no!
I think if they had said, we don't understand completely...
That's something, or at least present, like, even if it's a bad explanation, would you rather get 30% on an essay or 0?
Yeah.
Like, give us something.
But also, if they just didn't even say that...
Just don't acknowledge the weirdness, too. That
That
probably would have
that
been
would have
better
been
than
better.
don't try to understand.
I think that's the
No!
problem, is
It
that people
offended
wanted
me.
to understand it, and if they had done it like Inception, where they don't go into it too deep, they like say, this is what we're doing, and they
And
never
this is
go
it.
actually like, why are we able to go into our
Exactly.
dreaming?
It's just, this is it.
This is what we're doing. If it had been that intent as well, I
It would've
think
been
it would have
better.
helped.
Agreed. Which brings us to a surprise other award after only one film. Best Voice Actor. I had that narrowed down to Alan Tudyk as K2SO in Rogue One, Bryce Papenbrook as Kirito, Chris Evans as Buzz Lightyear, John Leguizamo as Bruno, and Dwayne Johnson as Maui. And I gave it to Alan Tudyk as K2SO from Rogue One. I love his performance.
I need to check this list that you sent me. Shoot, I just made the list wrong because on my list, I only have best voice actor. So
That's what we're on.
yes, but I never had the best voice actress.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just one list.
Gotcha.
So for voice actors, let me think.
We're professionals, don't worry.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think Dwayne Johnson's role in
Maui.
Moana. Maui.
Mm.
He's done super well.
He was my runner-up. He was my second.
He was really good. Alan Tudyk's a lot of voice things, so he's got that like profession
experience
and everything.
Yeah.
And I think Dwayne Johnson being Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people like him. My mom has the biggest crush on him. It's really uncomfortable.
Interesting.
But
they should cast him as the Thing for Fantastic Four. The Rock should play a rock.
That should be his entrance to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Because Black Adam got canned apparently. So that's another topic for another day.
But I think for Dwayne Johnson, like he never sung.
Not like this, no.
I think this was a good movie for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when you look at roles of Dwayne Johnson, I think this is like his best.
This will be up there for sure. Up there with Jumanji. Those movies are so much better than they should be.
Yeah.
They're so good. We should review them. I would love to watch them again.
Oh, yeah.
I like those a lot. Which brings us to A Silent Voice. I stand by what I said. Go ahead. I know how you feel about
What did you say?
It's good.
Yeah.
Nowhere near your level. I think I have it in the 80s on mine.
I think I put it at a 99.
Yeah, you said 99. I had it at 83. I stand by what I said. Although I am proud. One of the things I'm proud of with this thing is I made you appreciate the redhead guy, Satoshi.
Yeah, because I kind of just...
Yeah, you wrote him off, then I explained why he was there.
And I was like, this made me appreciate the movie even more.
I know, and I'm proud of that. I took a movie you loved and made you like it more. And I'm not saying sarcastic, that is something I am proud of.
For me, this movie is one of those, just because I don't compare anime movies to Hollywood movies. There's a difference for me. Fair. So for me, on its own, with anime, this is like one of those top tier anime movies that if you're into anime, watch that. It's one of those. There's like two others that I'm like, watch that. But that's one of the ones that I'm like, this is the one. It just the emotion and everything feels perfect.
Okay. We're gonna have to go a lot faster here because we're running out of time very, very quickly. So Pinocchio.
We have tons of time.
We gotta have dinner first.
No, we don't.
So Pinocchio,
I don't know how I feel about that movie.
I think I view it a little less than I did when I reviewed it. Not much less, but just no staying power.
I think that's...
Yeah. I will still...
Because there was that new Pinocchio movie that everyone's like...
Guillermo del Toro's.
And everyone says it's like the best one.
It's incredible.
Ever. So I was like, yeah, okay.
Like, I will still defend how the puppet looks and the performance of Pinocchio himself. But otherwise, it's... It's there.
It's not a movie that I'd watch just to watch.
True. I would probably only do it if I were doing like... I want to do one where I'm like comparing the animated to the live action, so I would probably do it then, but otherwise I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Best Animated Picture, where he picked A Silent Voice and I picked Encanto. Back to the Future. Amazing.
Yeah.
Back to the Future Part 2, same thing. No different of opinion. It's not as good as the first one, but it's still a good movie.
Yeah.
Best Leading Actress. This was a tricky one too. I had Bryce Dallas Howard as Claire Dearing, which gets 3 different credits to it. I had Letitia Wright as Shuri, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, Amy Adams as Giselle twice, Felicity Jones as Jenner. So
again, I messed up here with it. I picked the voice actor for Moana.
Ali Cravalho.
Yeah. So we're gonna switch it because the runner-up was Black Panther.
Letitia Wright.
Yeah,
that's fair. And I went with Bryce Dallas Howard. You get 3 movies to enjoy her performance in. Individually, not better than Letitia Wright, I don't think. But
and
the
it's
fact
Bryce
that you
Dallas Howard.
Yeah. Back to the Future Part 3, same. It's a good movie.
Good movie.
Enchanted, I like it a little more every time I see it.
I like it after watching Disenchanted.
More appreciation for the first one.
I wish they just never made Disenchanted.
Yeah, didn't need a sequel. Yeah. Best Leading Actor. This was tricky. I had it narrowed down to a few names, but I had a hard time. Diego Luna as Cassian Andor, Tom Holland as Parker, Ryan Reynolds as Free Guy himself, Sam Neill as Dr. Grant, Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly. I gave it to Diego Luna as Cassian Andor. He is so good.
So I was a little biased again. Focused more on like... So I picked John David Washington in Tenet. Because it was his first major role. And being the son of Denzel Washington,
huge name.
He did amazing in this film. Sure, the writing and the plot's a little iffy, but him
He was
himself, when he's on screen, you watch him on screen. You know, he's got that run. You know, when he's running away, and you're like, "That's the run." You know, like, have you watched Mission Impossible?
No, I haven't.
Oh yeah, we gotta watch it because just watching Tom Cruise run, it's one of those runs. That's what John Washington did. It's just one of those runs that you're like, this guy is running for his life.
Yeah.
He is putting in maximum effort in this movie, and it is his movie.
True enough. Disenchanted.
Man,
My opinion's gone down a little bit on it.
That's
Not
bad.
much, but a little.
I can't remember what I gave it, but it just,
I think. What did I give it?
it just.
75. It's probably down closer to high 60s.
If I didn't put it in the 60s, I'd put it in the 60s. It just does not.
No. And then Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stand by a 91. Maybe even a little higher, having time to think about it more. It's a very good movie.
You know what? After having that talk with you and doing the podcast, because I was a little biased. I was a little.
You went in expecting to be disappointed, which
Yeah.
doesn't help any movie.
But then you helped me to like think. So I think for me it's higher.
Yeah.
Like if I saw it again, I'd probably enjoy it more.
Mm,
Because it just was not what I was expecting.
true. Which is, that happens with a lot of films.
Yeah.
And now for the biggest award we can give. Best Picture. I had it narrowed down to Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, Encanto, Dune, and Spider-Man No Way Home. And I've made my decision. What did you pick?
I went with Dune.
Dune?
That it just so many things are done right in that movie, and because it's not the big names.
Mm.
I was like, I want to give this one the one. It's a little biased, I get that, but we're dealing with some of the golden age movies, so it's like this movie will be one of those movies I feel like people will look back on and be like, it should have been more praised. Yeah. So that's how I feel about that movie.
So when I wrote this script, I picked Jurassic Park. And as I fine-tuned my script, I picked Jurassic Park. And as I was going about editing and doing thumbnails, I picked Jurassic Park. But I'm here now to announce Rogue One: A Star Wars Story wasn't even nominated in my original run.
But
it takes it.
For
one, it beat Jurassic Park in one reason. I like Star Wars more than Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah. So that's it, folks.
That's that.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for listening for the last year and a bit. I know it wasn't quite just 2022.
We have no idea what's coming next, but...
No, we're taking a bit of a break. We're taking a little bit of vacation. We're going to talk. We're going to come back with new content, new reviews coming at you.
I think I've got some ideas for things we should do.
Well, we've talked about, like, several ideas up to this point.
You know?
We're going to get a schedule together. And
yeah.
We're gonna have a good time. There's new movies coming out. Rise of the Beast.
Well, this will be like the first year where we focus on a lot of the movies that are coming out.
Because there's just so much.
And we gotta like time them for. Like,
we gotta do our best to time them.
I think we gotta mess with the schedule a little bit and do release them right after the movie comes out. Like
we're gonna do our best.
I think we might get a little messy with the schedule because of that, but I think that's how we should do it.
Yeah.
Because doing No Way Home and then seeing it, and then 2 weeks later the podcast where it comes out was a little.
So for the Great Movie Ride podcast, I've been Gaston.
I've been Jerryofdom,
and we'll see you in the movies. Goodbye, everybody.
Have fun, guys.
Wee.